Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
We've noticed a lot of you are tuning in, which is amazing, but I haven't quite hit that subscribe button yet.
Yeah, and that little button, honestly, it's so small, but it makes such a huge difference in helping us reach more people with these important discussions.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. We see more and more women starting their own ventures, which is fantastic, right?
Absolutely fantastic. But the numbers still show this gap.
A persistent gender gap in entrepreneurship. And, why does this matter?
Well, it matters a lot. Female entrepreneurship is just vital for economic growth for society.
We want it firing on all cylinders. So today, we're diving into some really fascinating research.
Yeah, this study uncovers something pretty surprising about boosting female entrepreneurship after childbirth.
It's not necessarily about more money during parental leave, apparently.
No, it seems it might be more about having enough time.
Which is interesting because we often focus on, access to capital or networking when we talk about the gap.
Exactly. But today, we're looking at something, well, maybe less obvious, but potentially really impactful.
Parental leave policies.
Specifically how they influence mothers' decisions to, launch a business after giving birth.
Right. So for you, the learner, whether you're a parent thinking about it, an entrepreneur, or just, curious about this intersection of family policy and business, this deep dive should offer some really insightful, maybe even counterintuitive perspectives.
We're drawing on a pretty rigorous study.
Yeah.
Right, from the Journal of Management Studies.
Yeah, very rigorous. It uses real-world policy changes in Germany and a survey of mothers.
So a couple different angles.
Exactly. And our mission here is to just cut through the complexity, get to the core insights about supporting women in the business world.
And if we, connect this to the bigger picture, this research really challenges some common assumptions.
Like what?
Well, like the idea that generous leave, lots of time off, good financial support might actually discourage mothers from starting businesses.
Right. The thinking being they have security, so why take the risk?
Yeah.
Or they're out of the loop too long.
Precisely. But this study, it suggests maybe the opposite is true.
Okay, so how does it frame that?
It introduces this idea, the resource perspective, suggesting that mothers' entrepreneurship isn't just a fallback plan,
Right, it's opportunity driven too.
Yeah, driven by seeing opportunities, wanting to innovate, being willing to take risks. And all that needs resources.
Time and money, basically.
Especially time and money. So the researchers really wanted to pinpoint which of those resources from parental leave has the bigger impact.
So they look specifically at the length of leave, the time bit, and the amount of financial support, the money bit.
Exactly. Trying to disentangle those two effects on a mother's decision.
And they had that two-pronged approach you mentioned.
Yeah. First, they looked at some pretty significant shifts in parental leave policy in Germany.
Germany, which, as the study notes, had fairly, let's say, traditional family policies historically.
Right. So it makes it a really interesting place to see what happens when things change.
Okay, so what were these changes?
They focused on two big reforms. The first one, back in 2001.
Okay.
They call it time contractionary, meaning the reform kind of adjusted the system to encourage shorter periods of paid parental leave. Job protection was still 3 years, but the paid part.
Okay.
It offered a choice: a lower monthly payment for longer, or a higher payment, but for a shorter time.
So it sort of nudged people towards taking less paid time off overall?
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
The OECD even assessed it that way, less generous in terms of time.
Okay, that is a surprising policy direction. So what was the impact? Did nudging towards shorter leave do anything?
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The study found that this 2001 reform, the one pushing for shorter paid leave, it actually reduced the likelihood of mothers of becoming self-employed.
Reduced it? By how much?
By a significant amount, 17%.
Wow. 17% less likely to start a business after a policy that shortened paid leave.
Exactly. So that really points towards time off enabling entrepreneurship somehow.
That's not what you'd intuitively expect, is it? Makes you really wonder why.
It does. Then they looked at the second big reform in 2007.
Okay, what was different about that one?
This one was money expansionary.
More money?
Yeah, the government significantly increased the cash benefits during parental leave, offered a pretty substantial chunk of the mother's prior income, up to a year.
Why did they do that?
Well, partly it seems to address falling birth rates, making it more financially attractive for, say, higher-earning women to take leave.
Okay, so more money on the table this time. Did that encourage more mothers to start businesses? More financial security?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But surprisingly, no. The research found this 2007 reform, the one boosting the cash, it was basically unrelated to mothers' decisions to become entrepreneurs. No statistically significant impact.
Okay, hold on. So less paid time available, reduced entrepreneurship.
Right.
But significantly more money available made. No difference.
That's what the data from this natural experiment showed. Pretty counterintuitive.
It really is. Makes you think about what kind of support truly empowers new mothers beyond just, the financial side.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it's important to add, the researchers were careful here.
How so?
They controlled for other things: education, number of kids, general trends in female self-employment.
Okay.
And the core findings held up. The 2001 effect and the lack of a 2007 effect remained.
Did they do anything else to, double check? It was really the policy changes.
They did. They ran placebo tests, basically pretending the policy change happened in other years.
Yeah.
No significant effects found there. They also checked if fathers' entrepreneurship changed. It didn't. And looked for evidence that mothers were, strategically timing births around the policies. Didn't find that either.
Okay, so it seems pretty robust, that German study finding. Time matters, money. Less so for starting businesses?
For the decision to start, yes. So that's the real-world policy evidence. And there was study two.
Right, the other approach. What was that?
It was a conjoined experiment.
Sounds technical. Huh.
Yeah. Think of it like they created different packages of parental leave in a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, varying things like the length of leave, the amount of money, even how flexible it was.
Okay.
And they also included other factors, like whether good childcare was available or if there were government support programs for female founders.
And they presented these hypothetical packages to mothers.
To mothers and soon-to-be mothers, yeah.
Yeah.
And asked them basically how likely each package would make them to consider starting their own business.
I see. So exploring what mothers say they would likely do given different scenarios.
Precisely. A different way to get at the same core question.
And what did they find? Did it match the German results?
It absolutely reinforced it. The key finding was, again, only the duration of parental leave, that time component, had a positive and significant effect on how likely women said they were to consider entrepreneurship.
And the money part, the amount of financial support in these hypothetical packages.
Again, on its own, it didn't significantly move the needle in the survey scenarios either.
But wait, you mentioned other factors in those scenarios. Childcare, support programs.
Ah, yes, good point. Those did matter.
How so?
The availability of all-day childcare and government support programs specifically for female founders both showed up as strong positive influences on the likelihood of starting a business.
Okay, that makes sense. Those are very direct, practical supports.
Exactly. Things that directly ease the challenges of juggling work and family or starting a venture.
And didn't this study also look at whether different personal circumstances changed how mothers reacted, like boundary conditions?
Yes, exactly. This adds some important nuance.
Okay, tell me about that.
They found that for women who reported having a really heavy load of household chores and responsibilities,
Okay.
like a lot of hours per week on housework, for them both longer leave and a higher parental allowance became more important for making entrepreneurship seem feasible.
Ah, so for them, the money mattered more.
It seems like it. The thinking is maybe that extra financial support could help them, buy back some time, outsource cleaning, childcare, that sort of thing.
That makes perfect sense. If you're already swamped at home, you need both the time and maybe the resources to free up more time.
Precisely. It suggests money can be an enabler in specific circumstances, even if it's not the primary driver for everyone.
Any other conditions like that?
Yeah, emotional support from a spouse.
How did that play in?
Strong emotional support seemed to amplify the positive effect of longer leave on entrepreneurial intentions.
So feeling supported at home makes taking that time feel more like a real opportunity.
Kind of makes it feel less risky, maybe. More like, okay, I have the space and the backing to explore this.
Interesting. And what about socioeconomic status? Did that make a difference?
It seemed to. The research suggests these parental leave policy features primarily influence the middle-class women in their sample.
And upper-class women.
The upper-class women, who in this study all had university degrees, seemed less affected by the specific variations in leave time or money presented in the survey.
Huh. Maybe they have other resources or options that make those specific policy details less critical.
That could be part of it, yeah. The study suggests their decisions might be driven by different factors.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize all this. Bring it together. What are the big takeaways here?
I think the central message, really, is that the time provided by parental leave, the length of it, seems to be the crucial factor encouraging mothers to explore and maybe pursue entrepreneurship after having a child.
More so than the direct financial support during that leave.
Yeah. While the money is obviously important for the family's well-being, it doesn't appear to have that same direct, independent link to the decision to actually launch a business, at least not for most.
Okay, but let's dig into the why a bit. Why would time be so much more critical than money for sparking entrepreneurship in this context?
Well, the study suggests a few things. A longer leave creates a protected period, right? A kind of dedicated space for mothers to really step back and reevaluate their career path.
Like a pause button.
Sort of. And during that pause, they have the mental bandwidth to maybe identify new business opportunities, perhaps ones that fit better with their new family life.
Okay.
And also time to develop ideas, maybe build some confidence before taking the plunge.
Yeah, confidence is huge when starting something new.
Definitely. They even talk about motherhood as a liminal life event.
Liminal.
Yeah, like a threshold experience, a major transition. And those kinds of transitions often prompt people to reassess their careers, their goals.
That really resonates. It's not just about recovering physically, it's a huge identity shift, too.
Exactly. And having that protected time allows space for that reassessment, which might lead towards entrepreneurship for some.
Okay. And just looping back to the money point, while it wasn't the main driver for starting the business,
Right.
it did seem to matter more for those with heavy household loads.
Yeah, exactly. It adds that bit of nuance. It suggests that while money might not spark the initial entrepreneurial idea for most, it can act as a facilitator, especially if it helps manage other demands on their time and energy.
Got it. So for you, the learner listening to this, a really crucial takeaway seems to be this. If we want to foster more female entrepreneurship among mothers, focusing on policies that give them sufficient time after childbirth looks like a key lever.
It's not just paid time off for recovery and bonding, though that's vital too.
Right. It's about creating the space for potentially new entrepreneurial ideas to actually emerge and grow.
And here's that surprising fact just to hammer home. This research really pushes back against the easy assumption that just throwing more money at parental leave will automatically translate into more mothers starting businesses.
For many, it seems it's the time. That's the resource that makes the difference for entrepreneurial entry.
Yeah, that seems to be the core finding.
And these findings, they have real-world implications, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. For policymakers designing these programs,
Yeah.
for companies thinking about how to support employees coming back from leave, and really for anyone interested in understanding what helps women succeed as entrepreneurs.
It really makes you think then. Okay, if time is so key and needs differ based on things like household load or socioeconomic status,
Right.
what else could be done? What other kinds of non-monetary support could help mothers use that time effectively if they are interested in entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. Could things like, access to mentorship during leave, or peer networks, maybe specific skills training tailored to that period?
Could those kinds of things potentially amplify the benefit of having the time?
It seems possible, doesn't it? Something to explore further.
Definitely provocative thought to leave folks with.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.